Hey, welcome to Facts at 5. I am Michael Clark. It is Wednesday, May the 6th, 2020. And Morgan, happy Nurses Day.
Thank you.
This is a big deal.
Yeah.
Did you want to be a nurse when you were growing up?
No, I wanted to be a doctor.
See, now you're making me sound sexist.
Sound sexist? Did you
That's
want to be a
not what I
nurse
meant.
growing up?
There's nothing wrong with being a nurse.
No, I know.
Did
you want to be a nurse growing up? Did you think you'd be a good nurse?
No, I don't think I would be a good nurse at all. I think I would be a horrible nurse because I would have to put up with people like myself who are, I'm a real whiner when I get sick, so.
Well, I think everybody is, don't you?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, anyway, about National Nurses Day,
Go ahead.
Here is a fun fact. It
Yeah.
is celebrated annually on May 6th to raise awareness of the important roles nurses play in society. It marks the beginning of National Nurses Week, which ends on May 12th, the birthday of Florence Nightingale.
Oh.
So it's actually like how I celebrate my birthday. It's like a week. Not just one day. I got the whole week. I got brunch. I got Monday night drinks. I got Tuesday night drinks, just the whole thing.
Okay, good. So you are just chock full of information today.
But congratulations, and we want to thank all of the nurses who do an amazing job, who do all of the dirty work, really, when it comes to everything.
You know what? They were unflappable. I noticed that when I was in the hospital recently. Nothing, I think that's really the main reason why I could never do that job. Nothing really seems to bother them. They look
Well, can you
down,
imagine if you throw up and somebody's like, oh my God, I can't.
God, that's horrible.
This is horrible.
That's horrible. I can't take this.
You're the worst person. So thank you to the nurses.
Yes. We will. Maybe we'll go by the hospital later.
Sure.
Maybe. Yeah.
National Nurses Day.
We'll do
National
it.
Nurses Week.
All right.
All right, so for the second day yesterday in a row, the number of patients hospitalized with confirmed COVID-19 cases in Suffolk County rose. So the big mystery is if that's going to happen again today. If it rises again today, then that stops the 14-day thing because it's the third day.
Unless they play with the numbers a little bit.
Or whatever. Nobody really knows what the numbers are. But remember we talked about the 7 metrics.
Sure.
I won't explain those again, but one is that there must be a 14-day decline in the rolling average hospitalization number,
All right.
which Mr. Ballone said has now been met despite 2 days of small increases. We do hit the metric. It's not exactly how I pictured hitting the metric. He said, based on what we've seen, I thought we'd be sprinting across the finish line, but it seems we seem to be crawling across. So do you want to talk about the 7 metrics, what we're talking about when we're talking about that?
Yeah. So number 1 is the decline in hospitalizations, right?
Right.
Number 2 is the decline in deaths. And number 3 is new hospitalizations, which the goal is under 2 per 1,000 residents and a 3-day rolling average.
That's the 3-day rolling average we're just talking about.
And number 4 is available beds. The goal is 30%. And available ICU beds, and the goal is also 30%. We've touched on this a little bit, pretty much on a daily basis. And then number 6 is testing. The goal is 30 per 1,000 residents in a month. And 7 is contact tracers needed. And those things are then it's formed in 4 phases, right?
Well, the reopening is in 4 phases.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry. The 4 phases. Phase 1 is construction, manufacturing, wholesale supply chain, and select retail, mainly curbside pickup. Phase 2 is professional services, finance and insurance, retail, administrative support, and real estate and rental leasing. And 3, restaurants, food service, and hotel accommodations. And phase 4, last but not least, arts and entertainment, recreation and education, and the fun stuff. Doesn't come till the very end. Yeah. So, in order for us to get into phase 1, we have to meet, 3 of those? No, we have to meet.
I think you have to meet 7 of them, don't you?
Right. And then we're not even close to being
We're not
there.
close.
Yeah, we had 3 is what I meant to say.
When I saw it the other day in Cuomo's, his press conference, we were about it. I think we were the least Long Island.
Right.
So we had 6
Right.
wrong. 6 not reaching the 7 goals.
Which makes sense because of the concentration of our.
Absolutely, yeah. But we want to make sure, because we don't want to be in a car accident and not be able to go to the hospital because everybody's taking up the beds
Yep.
with COVID-19.
Yep.
This contract tracer thing is pretty interesting to me. They need something like 850 or something contact tracers. I might have said contract, I didn't mean that. Contact tracers.
Right.
So there are jobs available right now from home with New York State. You have to have certain technical abilities. You have to have a phone. You have to have a computer attached to the internet. You preferably can have a phone with a headset. But in general, the idea is they need people to call people who have COVID-19 and say, who were you in contact with?
Right.
And this is eventually to warn people that they were in contact so they can get tested, to eventually flatten the curve even more and make sure that people are safe. But it is, it's a pretty, I think that the job is pretty cool, actually. The position is temporary with a 1-year engagement expected. So you could be doing this for a year, potentially. And it looks like it has several different hours you can work because the contact center will operate 7 days a week between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. If you want to apply, go to the town of East Hampton on Facebook. They put the application, and we also shared it on our LTV Facebook page.
Wow.
So it is, but it's a pretty decent, it's, it's
Yeah.
a government job.
But they're going to be like talking to people about their personal. They're going to be.
It can't be easy. You have to have empathy and diplomacy.
Okay, well, it counts me out.
Yeah. I have the empathy part, but not the diplomacy. So anyway, just interesting tidbit.
So that's it's out there. At least they're putting together a plan in order to
absolutely.
make it happen. So that's great. In some local news, East Hampton Village is moving to limited beach use, as did the town, basically following almost the same path that Peter Van Square, his team had taken. So in an effort to limit the number of people at East Hampton Village beaches, the village announced on Monday that beach parking permits will be required and no daily parking passes will be issued starting May 15th. East Hampton Town enacted a similar policy back on April 24th. And the village said it will also develop new protocols for the use of the bathrooms and the lockers at the beaches. It'll be monitoring them to ensure that people are either social distancing or wearing face coverings. And Hampton's free ride, because you're saying, well, they're not going to park there. Right. Going to it's a free shuttle service to Main Beach from various points in the village. That's also temporarily been suspended, so they won't be operating as well. So
it's Main Beach, Georgica,
yeah.
Maidstone.
But
you can't really swim there, but you're not supposed to. But what other ones is there?
Which ones are the
village ones? Yeah, I know it's Main Beach and Georgica, though. Right. I know for sure.
And they did make it clear, though, that the procedures aren't followed, that they're going to close the beaches. So nice to know.
We don't want that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my Mythbuster for today is that Bill Gates. The myth is Bill Gates is responsible for the coronavirus because he wanted to create a bioweapon to further vaccine sales. Okay, so
we want to dispel this rumor.
This is
we
not
want to make
the
it
truth.
Clear this is not the truth.
And this is one of those things we talked about when we first started mentioning myths, that there's the tiniest bit of truth in that Bill Gates has been working with the World Health Organization and on vaccines in general, but vaccines to help the world, right. Not to start a bioweapon.
Okay.
And just, as it is terms with the smell test, Bill Gates has a net worth of $107 billion. He's the second richest man in the world, second to Jeff Bezos. If he really wants to get richer by destroying the world,
I don't think he needs it. Yeah.
I don't really know why he needs the money. And there's one in there that I also read was that he wants the vaccine to put a microchip in you to be able to track you. But that's not true either, Mike.
Like you do with the dogs, the dog you put.
That's not true either. No. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Okay, I'm glad you cleared that up.
All right. And then I just want to add this little other Mythbuster that the coronavirus cannot be cured by eating a bunch of garlic or drinking a bleach concoction.
Right.
Do not do that.
Ever, ever, ever do not drink bleach. Yep.
No, do not drink bleach.
Yeah.
I think that's just...
You would think you wouldn't have to say that, but
you do.
It says it on the bottle, so we'll say it here. Yes, do not drink me.
All right, now I thought this was a cute story. I like this story.
It's a good story.
The Springs Community Presbyterian Church is now ringing the bells at 7 p.m. each evening. Apparently it didn't do this before. In hope they want to raise spirits. The Springs Food Pantry has taken over the church while no worship services are held. So listen for the bells in Springs if you're near Old Stone Highway in Springs. Right. I think that's nice.
That's great. And they're doing that in the city too with, shout
yeah,
outs.
7 o'clock they do the thing. Right.
So,
it's a nice way to do that. I like that.
Hey, we got a great interview today. Really
did.
good. Yep.
Really, really good.
Congressman Lee Zeldin is going to be our interview today. Angela's going to be talking to him about what's been going on and how he's been supporting, how actually all of them in a bipartisan effort have been supporting the whole COVID-19 fight. So I really look forward to hearing what he has to say. And thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Sound Aircraft Services. And we always appreciate your support. And if you're interested in helping LTV, there's more Facts at 5 or LTV in general. You can email us at facts@ltveh.org. So I will see you tomorrow, and thanks, folks. Please stay tuned for that interview. It's going to be a great one, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Michael and Morgan. At LTV Facts at 5, we're constantly striving to update the local community during this time of COVID-19. Joining us today is United States Representative Lee Zeldin. He represents Congressional District 1, which includes most of Central and Eastern Suffolk County. Congressman Zeldin, thank you so much for joining us at Facts at 5.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, well, we're looking forward to updating our local communities. I know you're in communication with different local leaders here. Can you tell us recently about some phone calls that you've had? I know there's been some good news in terms of relief to Long Island taxpayers, and start us off with that.
Yeah, the communication has been great through this process, and whether you are at the village or town level or county, state, or federal, everyone is in communication with each other to share ideas, answer questions, to work together to get through this. And it's important not only to be bipartisan, but there should just be no partisanship at all with so much of what we're discussing. So we had a call this week with the East End town supervisors and mayors, as well as some of our local hospital administrators. And I think it's a key for all of us to be working together as much as possible throughout this process. For me, our priorities have included driving additional state and local government funding. And that's been partly how to deploy money that was appropriated under the CARES Act, which has already passed Congress. I want to see additional flexibility in how that money can be spent, because it can only be spent on COVID-related expenses, to drive funding to populations under 500,000 people, because the CARES Act, they only drove money to 500,000 population and above. And additionally, where we've had some success in this municipal liquidity facility that was created to expand access for Suffolk County. And hearing about PPE concerns or what a local mayor or town supervisor might be hearing from local business owners, the communication has been fantastic. So that call you referenced was one of many just this week.
Right. Well, we're happy that everybody is cooperating with each other and communicating, which sounds essential. In terms of small businesses, there was quite a bit of money that seemed available, and then in 2 weeks, it seemed a lot of it was exhausted and some people had difficulty with loans. How do you see that working going forward? Is there going to be more relief small businesses in Long Island obviously is such a big part of our economy. Tell us about that.
There have been 2 tranches of the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. There's also been money that's been given out under something called the EIDL, Emergency Injury Disaster Loans. That was actually the first pot of money that our local small businesses had access to when a disaster declaration was issued for the state of New York, which included Suffolk County. The EIDL would allow a small business to apply for up to $2 million of a loan. The Paycheck Protection Program is up to $10 million of a loan with a generous loan forgiveness provision. As you pointed out, there's been some feedback, especially after that first tranche, and not enough money was being given to that smallest of loans, that smallest of local small businesses. And half of our nation's workforce is made up of small businesses. What we've seen over the course of this second tranche of money getting distributed is that a lot more is going out to these smallest businesses and these smaller loans. We've seen the average size a fraction of the size of the first tranche. We've also seen lenders do a better job than what we saw with that first tranche of money. So I'm happy to see the improvement. Every day we're seeing additional guidance coming out, maybe from the Department of Treasury, the Small Business Administration, and others in order to improve what really is congressional intent, and I think U.S. taxpayer intent, in order to get through this.
That's great. In terms of the Municipal Liquidity Fund, can you explain a little bit about how that worked? I know that we didn't really quite qualify, and then you efforted it so that we were able to access some of that money. Explain how that works and how it affects us.
The Federal Reserve, working with the Department of Treasury, stood up a municipal liquidity facility. And when they stood it up, in order to qualify, a city would have to have a population of 1 million or more, or a county would have to have a population of 2 million or more. Here in Suffolk County, we don't have a population of 2 million, but we're not that far away. We do have well over 1 million, close to 1.5 million residents here in the county. So working with the Secretary of Treasury and the chairman of the Federal Reserve and Suffolk County Executive Steve Vaughan and the county comptroller, we all worked together with this advocacy, which included a phone call that was set up the Thursday night before the expansion was approved, between myself and the Secretary of Treasury and the county executive, in order to be able to make that localized, personalized pitch for Suffolk County and for that expansion. So fortunately, just a few days after that phone call took place and after letters were written by many people and other conversations were had, the decision was made to expand the municipal liquidity facility, where now it includes Suffolk County. And that allows the county to do short-term, low-interest rate borrowing that will help our county get through it. It helps Suffolk County taxpayers. It provides flexibility for fiscal decisions that otherwise the county would not otherwise be able to entertain. So it was important to get approved, and it was great working with the county executive and with the leadership in Washington amongst the Secretary of Treasury and the Chair of the Federal Reserve to get this over the finish line. That's
great. Now we know that obviously in New York and Long Island, some of the hardest hit spots in the country in terms of this COVID-19, and PPE has been vital to our front lines. It continues to be. We don't know if there's going to be a second or third wave of this. Can you talk about what has come to Suffolk County in terms of PPE and how we are also preparing for the future?
Well, as far as preparing for the future, I believe that it's so important that between our national stockpile, our state stockpiles, and a domestic emergency manufacturing plan, that never again should the United States have to rely on some foreign country, some foreign adversary, whether it's ventilators, personal protective equipment, and to the maximum extent possible, medicines as well. So as far as looking forward to the future, we need to learn lessons and be better prepared going forward for a pandemic in a way like we've never been prepared in the past. But we're working through this and together with from the president and vice president and others at the federal level down to the local level, working very closely with the county executive, Steve Vaughan. Over the course of the last month, we've been able to get 1.2 million additional pieces of personal protective equipment. And it started about a month ago. It was a Saturday evening. I was contacted by the county executive's office, and he mentioned that the county stockpile was out of regular size N95 masks, surgical masks, gowns, face shields, and more. And that evening, I was on the phone with the White House, and over the course of the next 48 hours, we saw hundreds of thousands of pieces of additional PPE come to Suffolk County, and that has continued since. So it's been an important, great, strong, nonpartisan partnership, and it's one that we must continue until we're out on the other side of this. And as I mentioned here at the beginning of my answer, long term, going forward, we need to be better prepared in a way like we've never been prepared in the past.
Do you see additional funding coming into some of the hardest hit hospitals in Long Island?
So the CARES Act allocated money for hospitals, and then there was an additional $75 billion approved for hospitals in the bill after the CARES Act. So the money was first started being given out from the CARES Act in a way that wasn't giving Long Island and the New York City metropolitan area hospitals our fair share. So I was advocating directly to the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and I had calls with him and with the Deputy Secretary that the rest of the CARES Act money, as well as this new $75 billion pot, should factor in hard-hit coronavirus hotspots. It should factor in losses on the expense side and the revenue side, and it should drive more money to our local hospitals. So after that first tranche of CARES Act money went out, we have seen additional money go out targeted to areas like ours, and that's a much better approach, in my opinion, than what the first pot of money from the CARES Act went out as. And we'll see as hospitals have their needs going forward what additional funding is necessary. And I think it's key to get our hospitals whatever support that they need in order to survive this.
Okay, that's great. You obviously have been appointed to the President's Open Up America Again Congressional group. It's a bipartisan effort, which sounds like to us that you have the President's ear. What can you tell us about some of the thinking and the plans to get the economy back, and how specifically that affects us locally?
So this has been going on now, these conversations, for a few weeks. A couple of weeks ago, I met with the president for about an hour and a half, Neil Lofts, talking about so many topics, some of which are coming up on this conversation. And we've had one phone call as a group, and then there was another project where everyone was submitting a memo with ideas. A lot of the focus is based off of economics, but it's not exclusively with regards to economics. Health is a massive concern. It's really priority number one when you're doing a reopening is to do it smartly and precisely in a way that prevents another outbreak. On the economic front, though, you can't paint the whole country with one broad brush. There are issues as far as density. We have seen different impacts amongst areas in different regions of the country, different climates, for whatever reason, or maybe because there's less travel through one particular city versus another. There's so many different factors at play here. And even within a state, one part of a state might be able to open up before another. And we're seeing it here in New York State, where upstate you have far less density, you have far less cases, and they may be in a position to be a foot ahead of an area downstate. And I understand that. I talked to a colleague, while Suffolk and Nassau County now has well over 70,000 positive cases. I have colleagues where in their massive congressional district, they only have a few dozen cases. And for them not to open, waiting for Midtown Manhattan to be ready, obviously that doesn't make sense.
You know, talking about Suffolk County and in Long Island, we are blessed with beautiful beaches, you know, a topography that attracts a lot of visitors. Our economy thrives on it in the summer. For people who are heading into that season with such great fear and uncertainty about how this is going to play out this summer, what do you say to local people here, you know, in terms of hanging on and hanging tight and being hopeful?
Well, I think we've all learned so much more about what we can do individually with our own mitigation efforts. Certainly, we have so much of our environment around us ramping up their own mitigation efforts. So this summer is not going to be like summers in the past. Yes, we have this health concern, but we also, on the encouraging side of this, we also have people in our surroundings who are aware of what's going on and they're taking measures to help us. And whether you're going to a restaurant or you're going to shop somewhere maybe over the summer for retail, or if it's something for entertainment, you want to go to a movie or a bowling alley, I am sure that as everything is getting reopened, it's not just going to be a snap of the fingers and everything returns to normal. As far as our individual behavior, if you're older, if you have underlying health concerns, if you feel like you are susceptible in a very enhanced way you're concerned about, that might impact how much you go out. But if you do go out, you can maintain your physical distancing with other people. You can wear a mask. You can have others wear a mask. You can wear gloves. You can use hand sanitizer. And I believe that Long Islanders shouldn't just stay in their home through the summer out of that fear. But I also wouldn't want to paint that with one broad brush because people have, some people work in different types of businesses. They have a different health situation, but everyone can do their part to hopefully get through this stronger than ever.
We have a little time left. I just wanted to talk quickly about what happened last week with the flyover with the Navy's Blue Angels and the Air Force Thunderbirds, which was very impressive. What does it take to coordinate that? And how do you think that makes us feel in terms of, so many people, frontline people, veterans? It was impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are some people who aren't impressed, and then there are others who are. Yeah, and then there are others who are. And it's, we've seen the videos outside of these hospitals, whether it's our local hospitals here on Long Island, or it's been all the way down to Georgia and many locations in between. And you see all of the medical professionals coming out of the hospital. They're taking a break. They feel the love. They feel the support. And there's a spiritual connection. There's a patriotic connection. There's a service connection because those men and women who serve in our military, maybe in generations past, they'll go thousands of miles away from home, and the front line might be in the Middle East or it might be in Asia. Here, with this battle, it's a different type of profession. There are men and women who are on the front lines. This time it's right in our own backyard. Yeah. And what I thought was so cool about that moment was that connection that you can feel it with the video coming out of the cockpit of the fighter jet, or it's coming from what you can tell the passion and the excitement of that healthcare professional is that we are all united. And in this particular case, whether it's them, our law enforcement, our grocery store workers, our truckers, our farmers, the front line looks different like no other battle we've ever fought in the past. And I thought from that standpoint, it was a really special moment to take in.
Representative Lee Zeldin, thank you so much for updating us and our local community and for all of these bipartisan efforts and for joining us at LTV Facts at 5. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe. Speak soon.
Same to you. Thank you.